Hey guys, hi, welcome back once again. My name is Vaishali, and today I'd like to talk about the human needs. The human needs that almost all of us have as both social and interdependent, yet autonomous, unique individuals. So, as many of the researchers would tell us, that we probably, if not the only one, we are one of the species that is prematurely born. And when I say prematurely born, unlike other species, we are completely dependent on somebody else to take care of us. We probably are the only species that cannot stand on its own legs and run if it were to be attacked or if it were to be hunted by a predator. Unlike some other animal species, we probably are the only species that's born with a bigger head compared to its body size, or at least a more massive head compared to its body size. And probably that's universe's greatest sense of humor, that we take a very long time to balance our own head or everything that goes on inside our head. Researchers today also tell us that we probably are the only species whose brains, whose nervous system takes the longest to mature. And that, of course, has its beauty and its bane. The beauty of that is that a neuromuscular system is neuroplastic by nature, which inherently means that it can be changed with time, with due diligence. And in the same breath, we also, as humans, have the concept of hardwiring. The hardwiring not just of our neuromuscular system, but the hardwiring even of our habituated personality, or rather, the habituated idea about our personality. And then both of them are relatively true, argumentatively true, in their own places, in their own spaces. Because if we take this point, we'll also understand that we as humans are naturally curious to explore new things, to explore newer worlds, to explore newer concepts, to explore newer things. Because it is that sense of curiosity that kind of facilitates growth to some degree. And yet, on the other hand, we are also creatures of habit. We get hardwired and attached to our habits. Because somewhere our habits inform our identities. They become a distinctive part of our identity. And it gets difficult for us to maneuver between curiosity and a sense of habituated safety. Because our subconscious and our non-conscious that is formed and framed out of habits like to stick to what it knows best. It perceives its safety through that. And yet we know that growth happens outside of the comfort zone, which may not necessarily feel safe all the time. Now, apart from our safety and curiosity, we also, like every other creature, have the need for food, for shelter, for water, and for procreation to enable the continuity of our species. And as mammals that are completely and absolutely dependent on their caretakers for the longest time in our lives, we also have the requirement to be heard, to be nurtured, to be seen, to be taken care of. And when any of these needs are not met during especially our formative years, our neuromuscular system goes into a compromised state. For when any of that gets missed out, our development gets compromised. And naturally, as a survival mechanism, the body retracts itself. The body goes into protecting itself. So think about it. When the baby that's growing up doesn't get enough rest, when it's not fed properly, when it's not clothed properly, when it's not given proper shelter, quite naturally, its development is compromised, to the extent that at times it can also prove pretty fatal. And yet, say supposedly, if all the other needs are met, and yet the baby is unheard and unseen, when it's in distress, when it's wailing out, the baby or the infant naturally withdraws. Because somewhere on the cellular level, it recognizes that it's pointless to cry itself out hoarse, to waste its energy, which may prove very fatal for its very survival. Or the infant, the toddler might cry out harder so that somebody can come and take care of it, so that somebody can help soothe it, so that somebody can give it enough attention and nurturance that it needs at that point in time to help regulate itself. And since we are creatures of habits, both as adults and as infants, if those needs are not met for long enough period of time, we somewhere begin to understand that our needs are not valuable enough. They are not worthy enough for attention. And what began as co-repression of our needs, or what began as acting out of our needs, carry forward into our adult life as well. And also, our need to be seen and be heard and be taken care of and be nurtured are all essentially coming from a place of establishing connection. We also have a desire to feel belonged. And on some level, as a social species, our idea of belonging and fitting in gets distorted with time, where belonging essentially implies that I'm an interdependent species and can also have my own autonomy, can also establish my own authority without violating the authority of others or the autonomy of others. Whereas fitting in is exactly what fitting in sounds like. Trying to squeeze ourselves, mold ourselves into situations, into people, into places, so that we don't feel neglected, so that we don't feel a sense of abandonment, so that we don't feel like an outcast. And since as a species we are dependent on the others for the longest time, even for our basic survival, many of us try to fit ourselves into ideas, into ideologies, into cultures, into beliefs, into role plays, thinking that we are now a part of the bigger social community, of the bigger social tribe. And in my understanding, most species are still designed for survival. However, evolution has given us a chance to not only survive, but to also thrive. It has designed the human creature in a way wherein it can think of survival and thrival at the same time. And if not at the same time, at least as the main course and the desert. And when any of these needs are not adequately met, of curiosity, of safety, of comfort, and of slight discomfort, which invariably causes growth, of food, water, clothing, shelter, of being seen, of being heard, of being nurtured, of nurturing the other, wherein we actually feel that connection, wherein we can feel belonged not only as autonomous individual creatures, but feel belonged also as a social species. We live a compromised life, we live a compromised existence, operated primarily by our primitive brain, which functions solely for the purpose of survival. So think about it. If any of those needs are getting met, what are the needs that are not getting met? Have you even recognized those needs? Have you even addressed those needs? Have you expressed your desire to meet those needs? Can you meet those needs by yourself to some degree? And what kind of help or support system would you need to help you meet those needs for yourself? Are you vulnerable and courageous enough to ask for help for those needs to be met in case they've not been met so far? And then to even think of the time when you began to tell yourself that your needs are not important, that your needs are not worthy of being heard, of being seen, of being addressed. Think about it, because we are creatures of habit and we might be repeating and even passing down those habits onto others. Try and reflect on that, and I will see you once again the next week. Till then, stay tuned in. And guys, if you do like the contextual content of these videos, please do like, share, and subscribe.